First, we have to tell you about the heaviest animal that ever lived.
For over 60 million years, Titanoboa has been considered nothing more than a fossilized nightmare, a relic of an ancient world.
Oh my god, you can see the whole thing. That's a snake.
Yet recent encounters, giant snakes reported in remote jungles and unexplained sightings by explorers have reignited an unsettling question. What if Titanoboa never truly disappeared? And worse, what if conditions today are setting the stage for its terrifying return? Long before humans appeared, there lived a snake so immense it dwarfed even today's largest predators. Titanoboa cerrejonensis, as paleontologists later named it, was discovered in the Cerrejón coal mines of northern Colombia in 2009. Its fossilized remains told a story no one expected. A serpent stretching an estimated 42 to 50 feet long, weighing more than a ton. To put that into perspective, this predator was longer than a school bus and thicker than an oil drum. The discovery itself was almost accidental. Scientists weren't initially looking for a snake. They were studying ancient plants and crocodile fossils preserved in the mine. Then came vertebrae so massive they couldn't belong to any known reptile. When pieced together, they revealed the outline of the largest snake the Earth has ever seen.
I get out several crocodile vertebrae. A couple of vertebrae did not match. They were very, very distinct, very large, and I didn't know exactly what they were, other than that I knew that they were definitely not of crocodiles.
Its bones were so large that some researchers at first mistook them for the remains of a crocodile. Only detailed analysis confirmed the truth. Titanoboa was a serpent beyond imagination. Its size wasn't just a random evolutionary twist. It was dictated by climate. Around 60 million years ago, shortly after the extinction of the dinosaurs, the tropics were hotter and more humid than they are today. With average temperatures hovering near 90 degrees Fahrenheit, cold-blooded reptiles could grow to staggering sizes. Titanoboa thrived in this greenhouse world, coiled among dense swamp forests, where palm trees and giant turtles flourished. And it wasn't just a scavenger, it was a top predator. Evidence suggests Titanoboa ambushed prey from the water, much like today's anacondas. Fossils of enormous prehistoric fish, some nearly 6 feet long, were found alongside its remains, hinting that these river giants may have been on the snake's menu. Unlike anacondas, however, Titanoboa didn't have to fear jaguars, crocodiles, or humans. It was an apex force, the undisputed ruler of its ecosystem. What makes Titanoboa even more haunting is the window it gives us into survival after the dinosaurs. For years, the narrative was that mammals rose quickly to dominate the Earth once the great reptiles vanished. But Titanoboa challenged that idea. Here was a reptile still holding on to dominance, proving that snakes could rise to fill ecological niches once held by carnivorous dinosaurs. In a way, it blurred the line between the Mesozoic and the age of mammals. The reconstruction of Titanoboa's world was almost cinematic. In 2012, the Smithsonian Channel even built a life-sized model of the serpent, 50 feet long and terrifyingly realistic, to illustrate its scale. The exhibit shocked viewers worldwide, with people questioning whether such a monster could still exist. Hidden in today's jungles. After all, fossils show it lived in South America, the same continent where modern legends of giant snakes, the Sukuriju and Yakumama, still persist. The parallels were too uncanny for some to ignore. Even scientists acknowledged the myth-making power of the discovery. Some local communities in Colombia whispered that Titanoboa's bones were proof their stories of river serpents were more than folklore. While paleontologists insist the snake went extinct millions of years ago, others argue its legend never really vanished. It simply transformed into modern tales of unexplainable creatures in the Amazon. Beyond mythology, Titanoboa also changed how researchers think about climate. Its sheer size acted as a natural thermometer of the ancient tropics. If snakes can only grow so large in certain conditions, then Titanoboa's existence revealed that prehistoric South America was significantly warmer than today. Every story of a monster-sized creature starts with an image, a blurry clip, a shaky phone recording, a drone catching something strange from above. For giant snakes, the sparks that fuel the fire often come from viral videos, each one leaving people asking the same question: how big can these creatures really get? One of the most shocking moments came from Brazil, when workers uncovered the body of a colossal anaconda, measuring nearly 10 meters in length, double the size of what is considered normal for the species. Its discovery made international headlines not just for its scale, but for what it symbolized, a reminder that humanity has only scratched the surface of what lurks in the wild. Unfortunately, its discovery was short-lived, as the harsh site conditions meant it couldn't be preserved and had to be moved from the area. The fascination doesn't stop with the Amazon. Viral clips from urban neighborhoods sometimes feel just as surreal. In Detroit, a 5-meter reticulated python named Juliet caused chaos when it slithered onto the roof. Crowds gathered, phones were out.
He says it's a python snake. Y'all see this? Girl, this called dope breed. Oh my God, it's moving and it's huge.
As the snake slid back and forth like it owned the place. When its owner finally climbed up to reclaim the reptile, the encounter ended peacefully, but not before the footage spread online.
I called myself trying to drop Randy off from school, and I didn't see a lot of people outside with their phones. So the guy across the street was like, hey, it's a snake bust out the garage. I'm like, what? And then he was like, go on the side of your house and you would see it on the other side. Oh my God, he's coming down a lot fast.
While Juliet was a pet, the sheer scale of seeing a 5-meter predator on a suburban rooftop captured the exact unease that fuels giant snake legends. In the Amazon basin, where myths of enormous serpents run deep, modern explorers have added their own stories to the growing pile of evidence. One boating expedition captured footage of a massive anaconda basking along the riverbank, estimated by the group to be at least 7 meters long, with a body nearly 20 inches thick. For context, the average green anaconda grows to around 4 or 5 meters, whether the boater's estimate was slightly inflated or not.
Después se lo paso yo. Se ve bien, se ve bien. Guarda, mucho bien.
The footage showed an undeniably huge reptile, large enough to blur the line between fact and folklore. Those who saw it firsthand admitted it was impossible not to think of Titanoboa, the prehistoric giant that once ruled these same waters. Borneo offered its own mystery when a video surfaced of a giant snake slowly weaving through rain-soaked trees. Unlike the chaos of the Detroit rooftop or the tension of the Amazon boaters, this sighting felt calm, an enormous reptile gliding through the forest with a sense of purpose. The villagers who witnessed it didn't panic. Instead, they watched silently, as though realizing they were intruding on something ancient and untamed. No one knew where it had come from or where it was heading. That unanswered question is precisely why such footage grips people, the sense that we caught a glimpse of something nature didn't intend for us to see. Even in the controlled suburbs of Queensland, Australia, viral videos remind us that massive snakes aren't confined to deep jungles.
Think that's frightening? Well, check out what a Queensland family was recently confronted with. Kambantram's not going to kill that thing. A 5-meter carpet python.
A carpet python, stretching nearly 5 meters, performed acrobatic feats in a family's backyard, slithering across branches and dangling midair like it was putting on a performance. The stunned homeowners recorded the moment, transforming their ordinary backyard into a stage for nature's raw power. Eventually, wildlife workers removed the reptile, but the footage lived on, spreading across social media as another eerie reminder of how close these giants can come to our daily lives. These moments, Brazil's buried colossus, Juliet's rooftop crawl, the Amazon's coiled serpent, Borneo's forest wanderer, and Queensland's backyard acrobat, are more than isolated stories. Together, they form the foundation of the fascination with giant snakes. For as long as humans have lived alongside rivers and jungles, stories of monstrous snakes have followed. In South America, the Amazon is home to the legend of the Yakumama, a serpent said to stretch more than 100 feet and dwell in the deepest waters. Indigenous tribes believe it capable of overturning canoes in a single movement. Locals warn that sudden disturbances in calm waters are not storms but signs of this hidden beast passing beneath. Similar tales surface in the folklore of Southeast Asia. Villagers in Indonesia and Malaysia speak of snakes called nabau, creatures so vast they resemble living dragons. Eyewitnesses describe bodies thicker than oil drums, eyes that glow in the dark, and movements powerful enough to split trees as they pass through forests. When satellite images of Borneo's Balai River once appeared to show a massive snake-like form cutting through the current, many instantly linked it to the nabau myth. Africa has its own chilling accounts. The giant Congo snake, reported during the 1950s and 1960s, allegedly reached lengths of 40 to 50 feet. Belgian pilot Colonel Remy van Lierde claimed to have spotted one from the air in 1959, coiled beneath the jungle canopy. His testimony was backed by others in the region, sparking debates that still linger. Could a creature so massive, hidden in one of the world's densest forests, remain undocumented? These whispers are not confined to remote tribes or forgotten explorers. Modern-day reports continue to emerge. In the 1990s, villagers in the Peruvian Amazon claimed even their largest animals were no match for its pull. Photographs from that time, grainy, inconclusive, were circulated among cryptozoologists who argued the size exceeded even the largest known anacondas, while skeptics called it exaggeration. Locals insisted the danger was real. The persistence of these stories raises a question. Are they simply exaggerations of real snakes or echoes of something far older? Reticulated pythons found in Southeast Asia can reach over 30 feet, while South America's green anaconda can weigh nearly 550 pounds. These snakes are powerful enough to challenge some of the jungle's largest creatures. It isn't hard to see how a 20-foot snake could, in the heat of fear, be retold as a monster twice that size. But when reports consistently describe serpents far larger than any verified specimen, the line between myth and reality blurs. History offers a striking comparison. For centuries, stories of giant squid were dismissed as sailors' tales. Legends of the Kraken were thought to be fabrications until the 19th century, when carcasses of squid measuring over 40 feet washed ashore. The once dismissed myth was suddenly recognized as truth. Could giant snakes follow the same path, with myth laying the groundwork for an eventual discovery? Even science provides some strange fuel for these whispers. Fossil evidence proves that Titanoboa, a snake reaching lengths of nearly 50 feet, ruled the tropics 60 million years ago. If such a creature once existed, it's not a stretch to imagine oral traditions carrying fragments of memory passed through generations, reshaped into myths of river monsters and forest serpents. In areas like the Amazon and the Congo, where modern exploration is limited, the possibility of surviving relics still lingers in speculation. Eyewitness accounts often share uncanny similarities despite being separated by continents. Reports consistently mention massive girth, snakes as thick as oil drums or tree trunks. Many describe movements so powerful that the ground or water shifts unnaturally. Others note unusual behavior, such as looming beneath boats as though waiting to strike. This consistency across cultures suggests either a universal human fear shaping the same kind of story, or a recurring reality glimpsed in different corners of the world. Skeptics argue these myths persist because they tap into primal fears. Snakes already occupy a deep space in human psychology, representing danger and the unknown. Exaggeration comes naturally when retelling encounters in dense forests or dark rivers, but skeptics rarely explain why the same stories with the same specific details appear in places oceans apart. Myth alone doesn't account for that pattern. Modern technology occasionally adds fuel instead of clarity, drone footage, satellite images, and shaky phone recordings surface online. Many are quickly dismissed as hoaxes or optical illusions, yet some defy easy explanation. When a fisherman films coils longer than his boat shifting beneath the water, skepticism struggles to erase the unease such images provoke. Governments and military forces have also found themselves tied to these stories. During World War II, soldiers stationed in the Pacific jungles reported snakes of extraordinary size. In Vietnam, American troops spoke of serpents longer than tanks, though few accounts were officially recorded. Such claims were easy to dismiss as stress-induced exaggerations, yet they added to the chorus of whispers across decades. The most unsettling part is that science cannot fully close the door. Vast sections of the Amazon, Congo, and Southeast Asian jungles remain uncharted, inaccessible, and largely undocumented. In such places, a snake exceeding all known measurements could survive without ever being captured on film. The survival of giant species in remote habitats isn't unprecedented. The coelacanth, a fish thought extinct for 65 million years, was discovered alive in 1938. If one ancient predator could reappear, why not another? Ultimately, these whispers of giants form a tapestry of fear, folklore, and possibility. From South America's Yakumama to Africa's Congo snake, from Borneo's Nabao to the verified fossils of Titanoboa, the stories all point in the same direction. Humans sense there may still be something enormous lurking beyond the edges of proof. Whether myth exaggerates reality or reality hides behind myth, the fascination endures because deep down, people believe the jungle has not yet revealed all its secrets. And until those secrets are uncovered, the whispers of a giant snake will continue, circling rivers, slithering through forests, and haunting every shadow where the water runs deep. The Amazon rainforest is home to the world's largest snake, the green anaconda. Reaching lengths of 20 to 30 feet, it is an apex predator capable of taking down large enough to take on sizable animals. But ask the locals who spend their lives along the rivers, and they'll tell you of something far bigger. They speak in hushed tones about shadows moving beneath canoes, shapes so massive that even the largest anaconda seems small in comparison. Fishermen often recount stories of sudden disturbances in calm water. A ripple appears, followed by a swell large enough to rock a boat. The creature never fully surfaces, but the impression left behind is unforgettable. Coils stretching wider than the river itself, vanishing before anyone can process what they saw. These encounters usually end with silence, broken only by warnings to avoid that stretch of water. In the Laredo region of Peru, villagers have long whispered about a snake they call the Yakumama, mother of the water. Unlike the documented anaconda, the Yakumama is said to exceed 100 feet in length and to live deep within the bends of the Amazon's tributaries. Some believe it can create whirlpools that can pull in boats, while others claim it's said to challenge anything in its path. Though many dismiss it as folklore, the consistency of the reports across generations makes the legend difficult to ignore. Photographs occasionally surface, grainy and blurred, but unsettling enough to stir debate. In one infamous case, a group of Brazilian fishermen claimed to have captured an image of a snake longer than their riverboat, stretching across a bend of the water. Critics called it a trick of perspective. Supporters argued no illusion could explain the sheer scale. To this day, the photo circulates among cryptozoologists as supposed evidence of a giant lurking in the Amazon's depths. The Amazon has always been fertile ground for legends, but these stories often intersect with reality. In 2016, villagers in northern Brazil reported a snake over 30 feet long discovered during a construction project. Photographs of the carcass went viral online, showing a massive serpent that dwarfed the workers standing beside it. Authorities later claimed it was an unusually large anaconda. But conspiracy theories quickly followed. Some argued the true size was downplayed to prevent panic. Even scientists who study the Amazon acknowledge the possibility of unknown giants. Dr. Jesus Rivas, one of the leading experts on anacondas, has documented snakes approaching 30 feet in the Venezuelan llanos. Yet he admits local reports of even larger specimens remain difficult to dismiss entirely. The dense jungles and remote waterways make thorough documentation nearly impossible. A creature larger than the known record could easily evade scientific eyes while still unsettling to those who encounter it. One of the strangest cases came from the 1940s, when oil workers in eastern Ecuador reported being forced to abandon a drilling site after repeated sightings of a massive snake in the surrounding rivers. The accounts describe a serpent so large it was mistaken at first for a floating log, only to move with terrifying speed. When local guides confirmed the presence of an enormous serpent in that region, the story spread beyond the Amazon, fueling speculation that something far older than the anaconda might still lurk there. The question of whether these Amazonian shadows could be relics of Titanoboa often arises. Fossil evidence proves that such a snake, nearly 50 feet long, once dominated South America 60 million years ago. The discovery of Titanoboa in Colombia's Cerrejón coal mines in 2009 provided tangible proof that snakes of unimaginable size once slithered through these very jungles. Could local folklore be a distant cultural memory of such creatures reshaped through oral traditions into stories of the Yakumama, or could evolution have allowed a few survivors to adapt, hidden in the labyrinth of the Amazon basin? Adding to the intrigue are military accounts. During World War II, reports surfaced of soldiers in the Amazon encountering snakes longer than trucks. Though largely buried in official records, these stories mirror the fears expressed by indigenous communities. Even trained, rational observers seemed unable to dismiss what they had seen. Skeptics argue these sightings stem from exaggerations born of fear. A 20-foot snake seen in poor light or from a distance could easily be perceived as something far larger. But skeptics rarely explain the photographic evidence, the physical remains, or the recurring consistency of details across unrelated groups. When fishermen hundreds of miles apart describe the same serpent-creating whirlpools, the possibility of more than coincidence arises. What makes these Amazonian shadows especially compelling is how quickly they vanish. Eyewitnesses speak of seeing something colossal for mere seconds before it slips back into the water. Unlike other animals that surface regularly for air or bask in the sun, these creatures remain elusive, avoiding sustained observation. Such behavior fits perfectly with what would be expected of a snake evolved to remain undetected in hostile, human-filled environments. The Amazon covers over 2 million square miles, much of it inaccessible. Countless species remain undiscovered within its depths. Scientists estimate that one new species is identified in the Amazon nearly every 3 days. With such staggering biodiversity, the idea that a giant serpent could remain hidden is less far-fetched than it first appears. Ultimately, the shadows that haunt the Amazon's rivers may be exaggerations, misidentified anacondas, or nothing more than the human imagination amplified by fear. But when combined with photographs, carcasses, and fossil history, these whispers take on new weight. The Amazon has never surrendered all its secrets. Until every river is mapped, every jungle scouted, the possibility of something enormous moving just beneath the surface will always remain. And so the fishermen continue their whispers, warnings to avoid certain bends, stories of shadows larger than boats, and silent prayers each time the river stirs unexpectedly. The Amazon keeps its secrets well, but it never stops hinting at the giants still waiting in its depths. In the past, stories of giant snakes lived only in the realm of word of mouth, tribal legends, sailors' accounts, and whispered warnings in villages. Today, however, a new element fuels the fire: cameras. With smartphones, drones, and satellite imagery, sightings no longer rely solely on memory. They are caught on film, and that changes everything. One of the earliest viral snake videos emerged from Brazil in 2012. A shaky clip shows what appears to be a massive serpent gliding across a wide river, its body stretching longer than a boat in the background. Skeptics argued it was a trick of perspective, perhaps even a rope or a log drifting in the water. Yet viewers who studied the footage noticed distinct undulating movements that no inanimate object could mimic. For many, it was the first modern proof that legends might hold weight. Drones have become game changers. Flying over rivers and dense jungle canopies, they have captured strange footage that sparks debate worldwide. In one striking video from Peru, a drone operator spotted a thick, dark coil moving beneath shallow water. The clip is brief, but the visible girth of the shape dwarfs even the largest known anaconda. Some biologists dismissed it as a school of fish moving in unison. Others noted that the fluid, snake-like movement was far too cohesive for such an explanation. Another unsettling piece of evidence came from Indonesia in 2017. Fishermen reported seeing what looked like a snake stretching over 30 feet floating near their village after a storm. The footage shows a long, pale body drifting in the water. Local authorities retrieved the carcass, though reports conflicted on whether it was a decomposed whale, a giant oarfish, or indeed a serpent. No official conclusion was released, and the mystery deepened. What makes these cases more compelling is how quickly governments or officials often dismiss them. Footage circulates online, sparks debate, and then quietly fades as misidentifications. Yet the explanations rarely satisfy everyone. In the digital age, where almost every fake can be debunked, the clips that remain unexplained carry even greater weight. There are also photographs taken from the air, often by accident. Pilots flying over the Amazon and the Congo have occasionally reported seeing serpentine shapes crossing rivers below. In one case, an aerial image taken in the 1990s shows a snake-like form cutting through water, trailing waves behind it. Some claim it was a boat wake, but the serpentine curve of the disturbance suggested otherwise. The photograph continues to circulate in cryptozoological circles as one of the strongest pieces of visual evidence for giant snakes. Skeptics argue that the human brain is predisposed to pattern recognition. A floating log, a long shadow, or the wake of an animal can easily be perceived as a snake, especially when expectations prime the observer. But this line of reasoning falters when multiple independent witnesses and mechanical cameras record the same phenomenon. A shadow seen by the eye alone may be dismissed as imagination, but what about footage that shows coils moving in rhythm beneath the surface? Nature documentaries have also stumbled into controversy. In 2016, a wildlife team filming in the Amazon claimed to have encountered a snake over 30 feet long while shooting for a television series. Only fragments of the encounter were aired, and producers downplayed the incident, citing safety concerns. But members of the crew hinted in interviews that what they saw was beyond anything they could have expected. This led some to speculate that footage had been withheld to avoid sensationalism or panic. The blurry, elusive quality of most footage adds another layer of intrigue. If these creatures exist, why are the recordings always grainy, distant, or incomplete? Adds another layer of intrigue. If these creatures exist, why are the recordings always grainy, distant, or incomplete? Skeptics seize on this point, but cryptid researchers counter with the environment itself. Dense forests, murky rivers, and unpredictable encounters make clear documentation nearly impossible. A fisherman fumbling with a phone while a 50-foot serpent slides past will never produce cinematic clarity. Instead, the very conditions of the Amazon and other snake-haunted regions guarantee imperfect evidence. Then there are hoaxes which muddy the waters. Photoshop edits, staged models, and fake documentaries have created a climate of skepticism. The monster shark lives left viewers more wary of cryptid evidence than ever before. Yet, amidst proven fakes, a smaller set of videos resists easy dismissal, and those are the ones that linger. Clips showing something too large, too fluid, and too real to ignore. Military archives even add to this puzzle. Leaked claims from jungle patrols in South America describe encounters where soldiers filmed enormous serpents, only to have the footage confiscated. Though unverified, the consistency of these rumors aligns eerily with civilian reports. If such footage exists, it has never reached the public, fueling suspicions of deliberate suppression. In the end, modern technology hasn't debunked the whispers of giant snakes, it has amplified them. Every blurry clip and aerial photograph, while not conclusive proof, stacks onto centuries of oral tradition and eyewitness accounts. Each video forces the same unsettling thought. If even one of these recordings is genuine, then the world is still hiding something enormous. Titanoboa wasn't simply large, it was the apex predator of its era. While other creatures filled the swamps of Paleocene South America, none rivaled the serpent's dominance. Its coils could squeeze with a force that scientists think went beyond 400 pounds per square inch, definitely enough to cause some serious damage. The fossils of giant turtles and crocodile-like reptiles discovered alongside Titanoboa suggest it had no equal. Nothing in its ecosystem stood a chance once the serpent struck. Unlike normal snakes, Titanoboa operated in an environment rich with oversized prey. The Sarajan Formation, where its remains were unearthed, preserved a tropical world teeming with massive fish, turtles with shells over 5 feet wide, and dinosaurs, ancient relatives of crocodiles stretching more than 20 feet long. These were formidable animals in their own right, but the snake's size and stealth placed it above them on the food chain. Fossil evidence indicates that Titanoboa thrived in swampy waterways where it could lie in wait, coiled in silence, ready to strike. The mechanics of its hunting were as terrifying as its scale. Unlike venomous snakes that rely on toxins, Titanoboa's weapon was raw physical strength. To put that in perspective, its grip was stronger than the bite of a Tyrannosaurus rex. Once Titanoboa locked onto a target, escape was impossible. Some researchers believe its preferred prey was aquatic, pointing to the abundance of giant bony fish fossils in the same layers. These fish, measuring 6 feet or more, would have been ideal meals for the snake. Titanoboa's elongated body allowed it to strike in the water, preying on fish with precision. Others argue that the massive turtles and crocodilian creatures in the region were also on its menu. If so, Titanoboa wasn't just a predator, it was the ultimate regulator of its ecosystem, keeping populations of giant reptiles in check. The sheer dominance of Titanoboa paints a different picture of post-dinosaur Earth. Popular belief long held that mammals quickly assumed power after the extinction event. Yet here was a reptile ruling the tropics with absolute authority. It suggests that for millions of years, snakes, not mammals, were the reigning predators in some regions. This challenges the narrative of evolution as a smooth progression from dinosaurs to mammals, instead revealing an overlap where reptiles continued to dominate. The scale of Titanoboa has even sparked debate about whether larger snakes might have existed. Paleontologists caution that Titanoboa is the largest confirmed species, but its discovery in a single coal mine hints at the possibility of more. South America remains one of the most fossil-rich yet underexplored continents. If Titanoboa reached 50 feet, what prevents the idea of an undiscovered relative stretching even longer? Each new fossil find only deepens the sense that the fossil record is far from complete. What makes Titanoboa especially haunting is how closely it aligns with modern serpent legends. Indigenous stories across South America speak of monstrous snakes capable of swallowing canoes, crushing oxen, or dragging fishermen underwater. Tales of the Sukuriju and Yakumama echo Titanoboa's capabilities, blurring the line between ancient reality and contemporary myth. While science asserts that Titanoboa got extinct 58 million years ago, its legend seems to ripple forward in time, shaping human fears of what lurks in the rivers. Its dominance also highlights the balance of ancient ecosystems. Apex predators play crucial roles in shaping their environments, and Titanoboa was no exception. By preying on turtles, crocodilians, and giant fish, it controlled populations and prevented any single species from overrunning the swamps. Titanoboa had no rivals, not even humans. It lived in an age when the world was still untamed, and reptiles like it reigned unchallenged. The reality is that Titanoboa is gone, preserved only in stone, yet the fascination persists because it embodies extremes. It wasn't just another prehistoric reptile, it was a reminder of Earth's capacity to produce life at terrifying scales. Its bones, unearthed from ancient coal, tell a story that combines raw science with myth-making power, and every detail discovered only reinforces its position as a creature truly larger than life. Proof in the fossils. For centuries, tales of monstrous snakes were dismissed as exaggerations or folklore. That changed in 2009. In the coal mines of Cerrejón, Colombia, miners stumbled upon vertebrae so massive that scientists initially thought they belonged to a crocodile. Closer inspection revealed otherwise. The remains belonged to a snake of unimaginable proportions.
There were so many bones to pick up that we didn't always identify everything properly. That we collected. Picking up a bone, and I remember talking to a student about it at that time. We looked at it and we weren't exactly sure what it was. So I wrapped it up in our paper and tape and put a field number on it and wrote crocodile ? We realized that the bones that we had in our hands were much larger than anything that had ever been described before. In fact, so much larger that I had all kinds of wild ideas right away about how large that snake would have been. And so that's when I contacted the world's expert in calculating body size in the largest fossil snakes.
Titanoboa had stepped out of legend and into reality. The discovery was led by a team of paleontologists from the University of Florida and the Smithsonian Institution. What they uncovered wasn't just fragments, but a chain of vertebrae, skull pieces, and rib bones that allowed researchers to reconstruct the animal's scale with shocking accuracy. The vertebrae alone measured nearly twice the size of those from the largest anacondas alive today. These bones painted a terrifying picture, a serpent stretching between 42 and 50 feet and weighing over a ton. The Cerrejón coal mine provided the perfect conditions for fossil preservation. Once a lush, swampy jungle, it trapped the remains of plants and animals beneath layers of sediment that later hardened into coal.
Late at night, I was just kind of unraveling these things. Most of them were crocodilians, but there were a handful of bones there that were clearly not any crocodilian. The whole structure of the vertebra was completely different. Not only, a really big snake, but being bigger than any snake we knew of. And we immediately started pulling out skeletons of anacondas and pythons and finding anything we could about giant snakes. And every single thing we were finding was smaller than what we were looking at.
Among these layers, paleontologists not only found Titanoboa, but also fossilized remains of its prey. Giant turtles with shells wider than car tires and crocodilian relatives longer than small boats. The presence of these creatures alongside Titanoboa's bones offered crucial context. This wasn't just a giant snake living in isolation. It was the apex predator of a thriving, oversized ecosystem. What made the fossils so significant was their indisputable scale. Myths and blurry photographs could always be questioned, but bone cannot lie. The vertebrae were measurable, their dimensions testable, and their weight undeniable. Even skeptics had to concede this was no exaggeration. Titanoboa was as real as any creature in the fossil record, and its sheer size forced scientists to rethink what reptiles were capable of achieving. The fossils also revealed vital clues about climate. Cold-blooded animals rely on external heat to regulate their bodies, and their maximum size is tied directly to environmental temperatures. By studying Titanoboa's size, researchers concluded that the Paleocene tropics were significantly hotter than today, averaging around 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 32 degrees Celsius. Without such warmth, a reptile of that size couldn't have survived. In other words, Titanoboa's bones became not only proof of its existence, but also a window into ancient climate science. The Sarajevo site soon became one of the most important paleontological discoveries in recent history. Scientists reconstructed life-sized models of Titanoboa for museum exhibits, shocking audiences worldwide.
It's huge.
Is it real?
This was the largest predator on the planet for about 10 million years after the extinction of the dinosaurs. When we initially found the bones of Titanoboa, I did not recognize it as a snake. I thought maybe it was some kind of strange crocodile, and it really was the scale that threw me off. The only way to get a snake this size is to increase the temperature substantially. And that's an interesting observation because it would actually have to have been so warm.
Visitors were confronted with the scale of a predator that could easily stretch across a school bus. The fossil evidence had transformed myth into measurable fact, forcing even the most skeptical to confront the reality of Earth's monstrous past. Yet, as with all great discoveries, the fossils also fueled speculation. If such a creature could remain hidden in the earth for 60 million years, what else might be buried, waiting to be found? Titanoboa was unearthed not in a remote corner of the planet, but in a commercial coal mine, an area not specifically excavated for paleontology. That fact raised unsettling questions about how many similar fossils lie undiscovered in regions never studied. The precision of the fossils also strengthened connections to modern serpent legends. For years, stories of the Sucuriju gigante in the Amazon had been brushed off as fantasy. After Titanoboa's bones were displayed, those same tales took on a sharper edge. If such a snake had once existed, could remnants of its lineage have endured, shrinking in numbers and retreating into the depths of rivers or swamps? The fossils proved the snake was real, leaving room for speculation about whether echoes of its kind still linger. Interestingly, the fossils weren't just impressive in size, but in detail. Skull fragments suggested Titanoboa had powerful jaw muscles designed for gripping slippery prey like giant fish. The curvature of its ribs indicated a body built for aquatic stealth rather than fast land movement. In essence, the bones painted not only a picture of its size, but also of its behavior. Titanoboa was not a lumbering beast, but a specialized, efficient hunter that dominated its watery environment with surgical precision. The discovery also challenged long-held assumptions about post-dinosaur dominance. The extinction event that wiped out the dinosaurs was often portrayed as a reset button, paving the way for mammals to take over. Titanoboa's fossils told a different story. For millions of years after the dinosaurs vanished, reptiles like Titanoboa still reigned supreme, keeping mammalian dominance at bay. The coal mine bones confirmed that the age of reptiles had echoes far louder and longer than once believed. Even today, the fossils remain a source of ongoing study. Researchers continue to analyze microstructures in the bones for insights into Titanoboa's growth rates and lifespan. Each vertebra holds hidden data, like tree rings, that can reveal how fast the serpent grew and how long it lived. Some paleontologists believe Titanoboa could have lived for several decades, reaching its colossal size through steady, unstoppable growth. Titanoboa was not simply a product of evolution, it was a product of climate. Its immense size wasn't random chance, but a direct response to the environmental conditions of its time. Roughly 60 million years ago, during the Paleocene epoch, northern South America was a furnace. Temperatures averaged around 30 to 34 degrees Celsius, 86 to 93 degrees Fahrenheit, with humidity so high that swampy rainforests stretched endlessly across the land. This wasn't just a jungle, it was a hothouse, and Titanoboa was its apex creation. Cold-blooded creatures, or ectotherms, rely on external warmth to regulate body functions. Unlike mammals, which produce internal heat, reptiles are bound by their surroundings. If the world is too cool, their metabolic process is slow, limiting their size. In contrast, a hotter climate supercharges growth potential. Titanoboa's massive frame, stretching over 40 feet and weighing more than a ton, was possible only because the Paleocene swamps provided constant heat to sustain such a body. The evidence lies in the fossils themselves. When paleontologists measured Titanoboa's vertebrae and reconstructed its proportions, they realized such a giant couldn't exist in today's climates. For a snake of that scale to function, the air and ground temperatures would need to remain consistently high, far warmer than modern tropical averages. In fact, by back-calculating from Titanoboa's size, scientists estimated the Paleocene tropics were about 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit hotter than they are today. The snake itself became a thermometer for ancient Earth. This connection between temperature and size isn't unique to Titanoboa. It's a principle known as ecophysiological scaling. Crocodiles, lizards, and other reptiles in the fossil record also show dramatic size increases during warmer epochs. Megalania, the giant monitor lizard of Australia, thrived in hotter climates before vanishing as conditions cooled. The pattern is consistent. Warmth fuels giants, while cooling trims them down. Titanoboa is the most extreme example of this law written in bone. But here's the unsettling part. Our modern world is heating again. With global temperatures rising due to climate change, some scientists have quietly speculated whether conditions could one day allow reptiles to grow larger once more. If the Paleocene heat birthed Titanoboa, could a future Earth bring back similar giants? The thought is chilling, especially as tropical zones already experience warming trends that edge closer to those ancient averages. Still, there are key differences. Titanoboa thrived not only because of heat, but because of abundance. The swamps of Paleocene South America were bursting with food. Giant turtles, early crocodiles, and massive fish filled its waterways. A predator that size needed endless prey to sustain its energy demands. Today, ecosystems are fragmented, and populations of large prey are far smaller. Even if heat returned, food scarcity might prevent another Titanoboa from rising. Yet modern giant snakes do provide a glimpse of what's possible. Reticulated pythons and green anacondas in today's tropics already stretch over 20 feet, with rare individuals nearing 30. They exist at the edge of what current climates and ecosystems allow. Titanoboa essentially pushed that boundary twice as far. It wasn't a freak, it was the upper limit of reptilian potential in a hotter, wetter world. The fossil record also shows that as Earth cooled, giants disappeared. Around 34 million years ago, the planet entered a cooling phase that eventually gave rise to ice ages. Reptiles that once dominated shrank or vanished entirely, replaced by mammals better suited for fluctuating climates. Titanoboa didn't survive this transition, and its absence underscores how tightly tied it was to temperature. The cold was its executioner, more final than any rival predator. The importance of Titanoboa's climate connection also extends beyond mythology. Its fossils act as a warning. When scientists measured its size, they didn't just uncover a giant snake, they reconstructed a global thermostat. Titanoboa proved that Earth's tropics were far hotter than scientists had previously estimated. In other words, the snake's very existence rewrote climate history, and as modern temperatures rise, the lesson becomes uncomfortably relevant. Extreme heat reshapes ecosystems in radical, unpredictable ways. Some argue Titanoboa's reign represents the upper ceiling for reptiles. Even with today's warming, it's unlikely snakes could reach such dimensions again. Modern ecosystems lack the untouched expanse and biomass of the Paleocene swamps. Others counter that nature often finds ways to surprise us. If prehistoric heat unlocked such monsters once, the possibility, even if slim, remains that similar giants could emerge under the right conditions. Ultimately, Titanoboa's story biology is one of dependence. Its survival hinged on heat, humidity, and abundance. Remove any piece of that equation and the serpent vanishes. Its fossils stand as proof that climate doesn't just influence life, it dictates its limits. For Titanoboa, heat was both the gift that allowed it to dominate and the condition that sealed its fate when the world cooled. And that raises the final haunting question. As our world warms again, are we moving toward a future where nature once more breeds giants? Titanoboa may be gone, but its legacy reminds us that climate has the power to reshape life on Earth in ways we can barely imagine. When Titanoboa's bones confirmed that a snake once stretched nearly 50 feet, attention naturally turned to the largest serpents alive today. While no modern species comes close to that scale, two contenders dominate the conversation: the reticulated python of Southeast Asia and the green anaconda of South America. Both are colossal in their own right, often stretching beyond 20 feet and weighing hundreds of pounds. They are reminders that giant snakes aren't confined to fossils. They still slither through jungles and swamps today. The reticulated python holds the record for confirmed length. Verified specimens have reached 28 feet, with unverified reports stretching into the 30s. Native to Southeast Asia, these snakes are ambush predators, relying on stealth and raw muscle to hunt. In 1912, a python measuring 32 feet was documented at a zoo in Indonesia, though the measurement's accuracy has been debated. The green anaconda, while shorter on average, claims the crown for sheer mass. These South American giants thrive in the Amazon basin's murky waters, where buoyancy supports their immense bodies. A 20-foot anaconda may weigh more than a 28-foot python, with records of specimens pushing 500 pounds. In 1960, a Venezuelan zoologist, Dr. Jesus Rivas, measured wild anacondas and confirmed several between 17 and 20 feet. Local fishermen, however, often tell of beasts exceeding 30 feet, lurking in backwaters too remote for scientific surveys. Sightings of truly giant anacondas have stirred controversy for decades. One of the most famous came during World War II, when Belgian paratrooper Colonel Remy van Lierde reported encountering a snake nearly 40 feet long while flying over the Congo in 1959. Photographs taken from his aircraft show a massive, coiled shape in the brush, though estimates of its length remain contested. Skeptics dismiss the sighting as an optical illusion, while others insist it points to undiscovered giants living in unexplored wetlands. Beyond anecdotal accounts, even measured giants push the boundaries of what modern snakes can achieve. The Guinness World Records lists Medusa, a reticulated python in captivity, as the longest living snake ever recorded at just over 25 feet. Yet for every confirmed specimen, there are local reports of far larger ones. Amazonian villagers speak of the sucuriju gigante, serpents said to exceed 40 feet, their bodies so thick that they resemble fallen tree trunks. While no specimen of such magnitude has ever been captured, the consistency of these reports across generations keeps the mystery alive. What makes these giants fascinating isn't just their size, but their behavior. Both pythons and anacondas are apex predators in their ecosystems. Documented cases exist of reticulated pythons taking down humans, though such events are rare. In 2017, a 25-year-old man in Indonesia was found inside a 23-foot python. In another case, a 54-year-old farmer was swallowed whole in 2018. These tragedies demonstrate the raw power of modern snakes and highlight the unsettling fact that today's serpents already approach the limits of what humans can comprehend. Scientific studies confirm the upper limits of snake size are constrained by physics and biology. Muscles must be strong enough to support weight, digestion must be efficient enough to process prey, and prey itself must be abundant enough to sustain growth.
One of the things about snakes, even though they look like they're a long tube, they do different things with their neck and with their body and with their tail. Sometimes they strike and sometimes they're slithering. So they've got lots of different muscles. As you go from the head of the snake to the tail of the snake, you get different lengths of these projections and different proportions.
Reticulated pythons and green anacondas represent the maximum expression of these limits in modern ecosystems. Yet they remain only about half the size of Titanoboa, a gap explained by the warmer Paleocene climate and the abundance of giant prey. Still, the leap from 30 feet to 50 feet is not infinite. It's a difference of degree, not of kind. That's what fuels speculation. If modern snakes can push the boundary to nearly 30 feet, why couldn't there be rare outliers lurking in remote areas just beyond scientific reach? The Amazon rainforest remains one of the least explored habitats on Earth, with dense swamps and river systems that conceal countless species. For locals who claim to see serpents the length of buses, Titanoboa's existence in the fossil record only strengthens their belief. Video evidence occasionally surfaces to back up these claims, and it's important to note that giant snakes aren't evenly distributed. Reticulated pythons dominate Southeast Asia, while green anacondas haunt South America. Each thrives in warm, wet ecosystems with ample food and cover. Where these conditions exist, snakes push the boundaries of size. This geographic separation also means multiple regions of the world produce their own myths of oversized serpents, legends that echo Titanoboa, whether directly connected or not. Modern giants, then, serve two roles. Scientifically, they demonstrate the limits of reptilian size in today's climates. Mythically, they blur the line between possible and impossible. Each verified capture of a 25-foot python or a 20-foot anaconda reminds us that nature can still deliver monsters, and each unverified story of a 40-foot serpent tempts us to wonder whether something closer to Titanoboa still lurks. In the end, the reticulated python and green anaconda may not reach Titanoboa's terrifying scale, but they are its living shadows. They embody the same hunting principles on a smaller but still staggering level. Their existence proves that giant snakes are not relics of the past. They still breathe, hunt, and unsettle human imagination today. If Titanoboa represents prehistoric truth, modern media often drowns it in noise.
A giant snake has been spotted in the Brisbane River. Wait, is that a snake? Holy
Oh my god. You can see the whole thing. That's a snake. That's a real snake.
It's huge. It's actually swimming across the river.
Giant snake stories are irresistible, and over the past few decades, countless fakes have circulated, some laughably obvious, others disturbingly convincing. But the problem isn't just their popularity, it's how hoaxes blur the line between myth and reality. Forcing genuine sightings to fight for credibility. Social media only magnified the phenomenon. Platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube became breeding grounds for dramatic proof of impossible creatures. A widely shared video from Indonesia, for example, claimed to show villagers pulling a snake over 50 feet long from a swamp. The clip garnered millions of views, but investigations revealed it was a reticulated python of much smaller size, stretched in perspective by shaky camera work. By then, the myth had already taken root, with people insisting the government was covering up the snake's true length. Even mainstream outlets have fallen into the trap. Newspapers in Africa and Southeast Asia have printed photos of record-breaking serpents that later turned out to be recycled hoaxes from the internet. One such case involved a supposed 120-foot snake in Borneo, reported in 2009, which some papers treated seriously. In reality, the image was lifted from Google Earth, showing nothing more than a winding river distorted to resemble a giant reptile. The correction never traveled as far as the headline. The irony is that while fake stories are debunked quickly, they leave a lingering impact. People remember the shocking photo, not the quiet retraction. And for every every proven hoax, there are real cases. Oversized pythons in Florida, unusually thick anacondas in the Amazon that get buried under skepticism. Hoaxes don't just spread misinformation, they poison the well, making it harder for credible researchers to bring attention to legitimate mysteries. Psychologists argue this reflects a deeper cultural fascination. The bigger the lie, the more viral it becomes, especially when it taps into primal fears of the unknown. Giant snakes embody that fear perfectly, an ancient predator scaled up to nightmarish proportions. Each hoax, no matter how absurd, keeps the legend alive in the public imagination. But behind the fake headlines, real giants still exist. Documented 20 to 30-foot pythons and anacondas continue to surprise scientists and locals alike. Their existence makes the hoaxes more believable, ensuring the cycle continues. Fakes spark attention. Truth hides in their shadow. The challenge remains separating spectacle from substance, a task that keeps Titanoboa's legacy tangled in myth, rumor, and the occasional flicker of reality. Some stories fade with time, but others refuse to die, especially when they come from trained professionals and seasoned explorers.
We don't have any weddings here.
Unlike blurry social media hoaxes, these encounters emerge from people with little reason to fabricate, making them harder to dismiss outright. One of the most persistent comes from the Congo during the mid-20th century. A Belgian Air Force pilot claimed he spotted an enormous snake from the cockpit of his helicopter. He estimated it stretched nearly 40 feet long, thick as a telephone pole, slithering across open terrain. The pilot even descended to get a closer look, reporting that the creature raised its head several feet into the air as if challenging the aircraft. To this day, the account is repeated in cryptozoological circles, raising the question, could an undiscovered species linger in the remote jungles of Central Africa? This wasn't an isolated incident. Other pilots and explorers in Africa have reported similar sightings, describing snakes so large they didn't fit conventional biology. Some accounts even reference official documents and military reports, though many remain classified or buried in archives, fueling suspicion that such encounters were quietly brushed aside to avoid panic. In South America, the Amazon provides its own share of legends backed by field reports. Explorers in the 19th and 20th centuries documented encounters with serpents, allegedly surpassing the known limits of anacondas. Colonel Percy Fawcett, the British explorer who vanished in the Amazon in 1925, once claimed to have taken down a snake nearly 62 feet long. His team measured its body on the ground, insisting it was far larger than anything previously recorded. Critics argue Fawcett exaggerated, but his reputation for meticulous reporting makes the claim difficult to ignore. Even in more recent decades, sightings continue to emerge. In 1975, a French helicopter crew reportedly spotted an immense snake while flying over the Congo Basin. They estimated it at over 40 feet long, thick-bodied, moving with undeniable serpentine motion. The sighting was logged, but like many before it, never formally investigated beyond eyewitness testimony. What makes these encounters unique is their persistence. Unlike viral hoaxes, they resurface again and again, cited by new researchers, retold in documentaries, and discussed among herpetologists who admit the Amazon and Congo are still vastly underexplored. Dense swamps and remote rivers could easily conceal creatures far larger than expected, especially in ecosystems with abundant prey. Skeptics point out that eyewitnesses often overestimate size when confronted with something shocking, particularly from the air. A 20-foot snake glimpsed at altitude might appear to be twice that length. Yet, even accounting for exaggeration, the sheer number of consistent reports across continents suggests something worth investigating. The most intriguing aspect is how these stories never disappear completely. They don't dissolve under debunking like internet hoaxes. Instead, they linger in scientific gray zones, neither confirmed nor conclusively dismissed. Each resurfacing of the Congo pilot's account, each retelling of Fawcett's measurements, keeps alive the possibility that modern giants walk or slither among us. If nothing else, these encounters highlight humanity's uneasy relationship with the unknown. The fossil record proves that snakes of Titanoboa's size once ruled the tropics. With dense wilderness still unexplored, it becomes harder to dismiss these enduring reports outright. They remain shadows on the edge of fact and folklore, encounters that refuse to fade, hinting at truths waiting just out of reach. The fossil record shows that Titanoboa was not a myth but a biological reality. A predator stretching over 40 feet and weighing more than a ton once slithered across ancient South America. Its size wasn't a quirk of evolution, it was the product of its environment. The question now is whether those conditions could one day return, and with them, creatures echoing the reign of Titanoboa. Scientists studying Titanoboa's fossils have concluded that its size was tied directly to climate. The Paleocene epoch, around 60 million years ago, was a time when Earth's atmosphere was hotter and wetter than today. Tropical regions of South America reached average temperatures far above modern levels, creating ecosystems where cold-blooded reptiles could grow to extraordinary dimensions. Without such heat, a snake that large simply could not function. Here lies the unsettling parallel. Our planet is warming again. Rising global temperatures, largely driven by human activity, are recreating aspects of the climate that once supported colossal reptiles. While we are far from matching the extremes of the Paleocene, even small increases in heat have dramatic effects on ecosystems. Larger reptiles, from crocodiles to snakes, thrive in warmer environments. Already, scientists have documented accelerated growth rates in some reptile species in hotter regions, hinting at the evolutionary potential locked within climate change. The possibility of giant reptiles reborn is not science fiction. Evolution does not move backward, but it often reuses successful blueprints when conditions allow. Just as mammoths once roamed icy plains and gave way to today's elephants, Titanoboa may have no direct descendants alive now. Yet its ecological role, a reptile ruling tropical waterways, could re-emerge if temperatures continue to rise and ecosystems favor size over speed. Some herpetologists argue that the largest modern snakes, like the green anaconda and the reticulated python, are evidence of this latent potential. Both species already reach 20 to 30 feet under current conditions, with reports of individuals exceeding those limits. If climate change continues pushing ecosystems toward hotter and wetter extremes, snakes of even greater size may not only survive, but thrive. In essence, Titanoboa's blueprint still exists. It simply needs the right stage. This idea becomes more compelling when compared to other species. Crocodiles, for example, are direct descendants of ancient reptiles that once reached sizes far beyond today's giants. Some fossil crocodiliforms stretched over 40 feet, rivaling Titanoboa in dominance. While no living crocodile approaches that scale, warmer climates could once again tip the balance toward gigantism. If crocodiles can carry the legacy of their monstrous ancestors, why not snakes? Of course, the reemergence of a Titanoboa-like snake would have enormous ecological consequences. In its time, Titanoboa was an apex predator with no rivals. Its presence shaped entire ecosystems, dictating the behavior of prey and maintaining balance through sheer dominance. If a similar snake evolved today, marine mammals, large reptiles, and even human activity along tropical rivers could be disrupted. Fishermen in the Amazon already speak of anacondas large enough to tip boats. A true giant could alter not just folklore, but daily survival. Skeptics caution against leaping too far. While global warming may mimic aspects of the Paleocene, modern ecosystems are fragmented, with less untouched wilderness than 60 million years ago. A predator of Titanoboa's scale would require vast, stable ecosystems and an abundance of prey. Today's human-dominated world makes such niches rare. Yet even here there is irony. The Amazon and Congo, two of the least explored places on Earth, are precisely the environments where whispers of giant snakes still surface. This convergence of climate science, biology, and folklore is what keeps the Titanoboa debate alive. Hoaxes and exaggerations can be debunked, but the hard science cannot be ignored. Fossils prove Titanoboa existed. Climate change proves that the conditions favoring its size are not locked in the past. And modern accounts, whether from pilots over the Congo or fishermen in the Amazon, remind us that our exploration of Earth's most remote habitats is far from complete. If Titanoboa itself is gone forever, the question remains whether its role in the natural world is waiting to be filled again. Evolution does not stop at our disbelief. Given the right pressures, it creates what the environment demands. Heat, abundance, and time may yet sculpt a serpent that forces us to confront the shadows of prehistory. Now, as we conclude our video, the thought is both thrilling and unsettling. Humanity likes to believe it has mapped and measured the natural world, but stories of giants slipping beneath rivers or shadows crossing beneath helicopters suggest otherwise. That's all for today. If you liked this video, make sure you're subscribed to this and don't forget to share thoughts down below.